Honourable David Parker.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance. Has he achieved all his promises in his last 6 years as Minister of Finance?
Honourable Bill English.
Yes, Mr Speaker. Despite challenging circumstances, and of course with the support and effort of so many New Zealand households and workplaces. For instance, we inherited a budget outlook of $3.9 billion fiscal deficit in 2009 and forecasts of never-ending deficits thereafter, and now we are on track to surplus. We said we'd protect the most vulnerable New Zealanders through the recession and ensure the tax system is fairer, and we've done that. We said we'd create an economic environment where business was confident to invest, supporting more jobs and higher incomes, and we've done that. But of course, there is still much work to be done, partly to complete fixing the damage of the previous Labor government, but more importantly to realise the true potential of so many New Zealanders who aspire to a brighter future.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, the Honourable David Parker.
Why has the wage gap with Australia, which he promised to close by 2025, widened since he took office in 2008, using the methodology that the Prime Minister promotes, widened by close to $70 per week and is now over $190 per week?
Well, Mr Speaker,
Honourable Bill English.
Well, the member's wrong, but here's a measure. Here's a measure of it. Are New Zealanders getting on planes in their thousands to go to a labour market where they think they can get paid more? No. Last month, the net outflow of New Zealanders to Australia was zero. That is, the Kiwi battlers are staying home because things are better here.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Order. Point of order, Honourable David Parker.
I seek leave to table a document prepared by the Parliamentary Library based on the methodology used by John Key that shows the wage gap has widened by $68.85 a week since 2008.
Leave is sought to table that particular document prepared by the Library. Is there any objection to it being tabled? There is none. It can be tabled.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Honourable David Parker.
Does he regret promising to raise $5 to $7 billion from the sale of state assets to spend on schools and hospitals when he raised less than that amount and then spent the money on things like fixing the roof of the Beehive, bailing out Solid Energy and a new computer system for the Cabinet?
Honourable
Speaker,
Bill English.
no regrets about that whatsoever. The government has $4.7 billion in the Future Investment Fund, and we are proudly spending that on other public assets, such as the largest, most complex construction project in New Zealand, the rebuilding of several hospitals in Christchurch. We're very proud of the fact that we have been able to sell shares to New Zealanders. They gave us their money, and now we are spending it on other public goods.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Honourable David Parker.
Does he still stand by his promise to lift exports to 40% of GDP by 2025, when since he took office, exports have fallen from 33% to 29% of GDP, and Treasury forecasts them to keep falling? Mr Joyce, read your numbers. That's right.
Order. Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, given the choice, I agree with my colleague Mr Joyce that the member's wrong. But I can tell the member this. There's no way exports would grow if we adopted a policy of shutting down the dairy industry and the oil and gas industry. Because not only would that be bad for exports, it would devastate our regions whose economies are overwhelmingly resource-based. And that's the opposition's policy.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Honourable David Parker.
Well, given that exports were 33% of GDP when he took office, what percentage of GDP are they now?
Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, I can't answer that question in detail. Because exports are at record levels. In the last quarter, in the last 3 months, New Zealand recorded one of its best ever trade surplus results. And we rather than criticising the export sector, we support them. They've been remarkably resilient over recent years, where despite the fact there's been the headwind of a high dollar, they've created thousands of jobs.
I apologise to the member. A point of order from Richard Prosser.
Mr Speaker, if the Minister begins his answer by saying, "I cannot answer this question," why does he then continue to ask the question?
Order. I will judge the length of the answers, and as I've mentioned to this House on many occasions, I take into account the length of the question and the tone of the question. But it is me to judge that, not for Mr Prosser. Supplementary question.
Point of order.
Point of order.
I seek leave to table a table prepared by the Parliamentary Library showing that exports have decreased from 33 to 29% of GDP and are projected to decrease to 26%.
The document's been described. Leave is sought to table the research document prepared by the Parliamentary Library. Is there any objection to that being tabled? There is none. It can be tabled.
Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question, Honourable David Parker.
How can he say he has fulfilled his promise to rebalance the economy away from housing speculation when Auckland house prices have increased at an annual growth rate that is 50% higher in real terms than it was under the previous government, when average house prices in Auckland are now touching $700,000 and home ownership rates are at the lowest level in over 50 years?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, as the member will know, the government has worked pretty hard over the last 3 years to do almost everything short of taking housing decisions off the Auckland Council in order to in order to free up supply in the Auckland housing market. And unfortunately, the opposition haven't supported us on all the measures that we've taken, but help is on its way. The housing market is cooling, supply is growing, and New Zealanders can look forward to more affordable housing if they re-elect the National Government.
Question number 7, Materia Ture.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker. Tēnā koutou te whare. My question is to the